The Atlanta Falcons have been at the center of some intriguing trade rumors lately, and while nothing is set in stone, it's worth taking a closer look. Could the Falcons pull off a blockbuster move for a former first overall pick? That's the big question being discussed, and while it may seem like a long shot, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. Atlanta has been searching for a dominant pass rusher for what feels like forever, and now a new name has surfaced: Travon Walker of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now let's be clear, this isn't a confirmed report. It all started with a tweet referencing Walter Football, a site that isn't exactly known for breaking major trades. But when a rumor like this involves a team that is ranked dead last in sacks over the past 4 seasons, it's worth exploring. The Falcons need help getting to the quarterback, and at this point, no idea should be off the table. So, why would Jacksonville even consider moving Walker? The Jaguars have a new, young general manager, and sometimes new leadership wants to reshape the roster with their own vision. It's not unusual for GMs to trade players drafted by the previous regime, especially if they believe they can get solid value in return. One potential trade scenario making the rounds involves the Falcons sending their first-round pick, 15th overall, to Jacksonville in exchange for Walker and the Jaguars' second-round pick. This move would allow Jacksonville to jump 21 spots in a draft class packed with talented defensive ends, giving them a shot at redefining their edge-rushing unit. Plus, it helps them avoid a looming financial decision on Walker's future. While this remains pure speculation for now, it's an idea that makes sense for a team still trying to fix one of its biggest weaknesses. If the Falcons truly want to upgrade their pass rush, this is the kind of aggressive move they need to consider. Let's be honest, has Travon Walker lived up to being the first overall pick? Number Aiden Hutchinson, who was taken right after him, has been the better player, but that doesn't mean Walker has been a bust. In fact, he's been solid. Back-to-back seasons with 10-plus sacks, 23 tackles for loss, and strong run-stopping ability prove that. He may not be a generational talent, but he's a guy who can anchor a defensive line for years. And for a Falcons team that has desperately needed a reliable pass rusher, this kind of move could be a game-changer. Imagine a defensive front featuring Leonard Floyd and Travon Walker as the starters, with Arnold Ebiketie and Lorenzo Carter coming off the bench, and David Onyemata holding things down in the middle. If Zach Harrison and other young players continue to develop, this unit could go from a major liability to an actual strength. It wouldn't instantly become one of the league's best, but compared to what we've seen in recent years, it would be a massive step in the right direction. Now, how realistic is this trade? If we're being honest, it's a long shot. Jacksonville isn't exactly looking to move on from Walker, and if they did, they'd want a strong return. But here's the thing. When you've been dead last in sacks for multiple seasons, you have to explore every possible option. The Falcons can't afford to be picky. And that's where the frustration comes in for Falcons fans. Year after year, this team struggles to generate pressure. Every season, it feels like a different player leads the team in sacks. In fact, Atlanta has had 5 different sack leaders in the past 5 years. The last guy to lead the team in sacks in back-to-back seasons? Vic Beasley, nearly a decade ago. That's the harsh reality. If the Falcons want to fix their pass-rushing woes, bold moves have to be on the table. So, what's the backup plan if Atlanta doesn't make a trade? The 2024 draft is stacked with pass rushers, and that might be the smartest path forward. Terry Fontenot, who comes from a scouting background, has to find a way to land 1 or 2 young, talented edge rushers in this draft. Free agency? Not much help there. The market for impact pass rushers is pretty dry at this point, and there aren't many names left who are worth a big contract. That's why, if the Falcons have even a small chance to land Travon Walker, they should be doing everything in their power to make it happen. If Jacksonville is even slightly open to trade talks, Fontenot should be blowing up their phones. Atlanta needs a difference maker off the edge. Whether that comes through a trade or the draft, something has to be done. Now, here's the big question. If you were the Falcons GM and Jacksonville offered you this deal, Walker and their second-round pick in exchange for Atlanta's first-rounder, Would you take it? Would you gamble on a player with high upside who hasn't quite lived up to first overall expectations? Or would you stick with the draft and hope to land a future star there? And here's where things get really interesting. What if the Falcons do nothing? What if they stand pat, avoid the trade market, and head into the season with their current pass rush unit? Would that be a mistake? Because let's be real, this team hasn't had an elite pass rush in over a decade, and relying solely on internal development feels like a huge risk. Atlanta can't afford another season of letting opposing quarterbacks sit in the pocket untouched. Something has to change. Last season, the Falcons managed just 31 sacks, one of the lowest totals in the entire league. Yes, they brought in Leonard Floyd, who had 8.5 sacks with Buffalo, but is that really enough? Floyd is a solid veteran presence, but at 32 years old, he's not a long-term solution. Then there's Morgan Fox, a reliable rotational piece, but not exactly a game-changer. Beyond that, Atlanta is banking on the development of young players like Arnold Ebiketie and Zach Harrison, both of whom still have plenty to prove. That's why the Trayvon Walker discussion, even if it's just speculation, carries some weight. The Falcons desperately need an impact pass rusher, someone who can disrupt plays, collapse the pocket, and force offenses to adjust. Walker may not be a superstar yet, but he's shown he can produce at a high level. If Atlanta believes in his upside, wouldn't it at least make sense to explore bringing him in? But let's flip the script for a second. What if the Falcons pass on this trade and go all in on the draft instead? The 2024 draft class is absolutely loaded with edge rushers, and Atlanta will have prime opportunities to grab one. Players like Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, and Chop Robinson could all be available when the Falcons are on the clock at number 15. If they truly trust their scouting, staying put and drafting a younger, cheaper option might be the smarter move. That's the challenge facing Terry Fontenot right now. The decision he makes could define Atlanta's defense for years to come. If he trades for Walker and it works, the Falcons finally land a dominant pass-rushing presence. But if he makes the move and Walker doesn't take that next step, the next step for the Falcons is crucial. If they trade away valuable draft picks for a player who doesn't meet expectations, it could be a big mistake. On the other hand, if they decide against the trade and the draft picks don't work out, we might face another tough year with a struggling defense. The truth is, doing nothing isn't an option anymore. This team has been stuck in a rut when it comes to pass rushing for far too long. Whether it's bringing in Trayvon Walker, a top rookie, or making a surprising move, something has to change. Falcons fans have seen this story play out too many times. Every year, we hear about potential improvements, but every year, the defense falls short. So, let's turn it over to you. What do you think is the right move? Should the Falcons go all in on Trayvon Walker and make a big trade for a proven player? Or should they trust the draft and focus on building for the future? Do you believe the current roster, with players like Leonard Floyd and Arnold Ebiketie, can make a significant leap forward? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. One way or another, Atlanta needs to fix this pass rush. The only question is, how? Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated on everything happening with our Atlanta Falcons. Go Falcons!